welcome once again to today's Words of Grace. And I just felt like, why wouldn't I just encourage someone out there by even sharing part of my own story and finding ways that maybe it can help someone? So, for anyone out there that maybe you feel like God is telling you to make a change in your life, whether it's with work, relationship, or something else, to make a new pivot, and maybe you're feeling a little afraid, this is for you. And I can also tell you about the journey that I've had with God. So I just feel like I should just pray real quick. Dear Father, please be with us, and please be with anyone that's listening to this, that this will be just a testimony to you and your goodness, and show them that they can do whatever you're calling them to do. Amen. So, have you ever been in a place where you felt like you're not sure about something, but you feel like there needs to be a change? I was working as a nurse, and I was in the hospital doing my thing, working as a charge nurse, but something within me just did not feel comfortable. And I wasn't sure, is it just that I'm getting burnt out, or is it God is actually calling me to do something else? Because I didn't want to step ahead of God. I want to make sure that I was in accordance with him, because I could easily be like, oh, let me just quit, do this other thing. But I kept on saying, but Lord, what are you calling me for? I even heard a sermon earlier in the year that was just talking about how instead of settling for the smaller things, go for the bigger thing that God's calling you for. And I started thinking, Lord, am I just so comfortable here that I'm not ready to make a change? Or is it that you want to keep me here? And I knew God brought me there. That's the thing. So it's like a wrestling within, Lord. I don't want to step out too early. And I kept on praying about and asking God, what is his purpose? Because I felt like I was just like a robot going to work, and I didn't have as much of a fire, a passion, and much of a purpose. And I would think of people like Esther in the Bible, who her uncle was able to say to her, maybe you were born for such a time as this. And I'm thinking, God, is this where I'm supposed to be, or do you have something new for me? There was something just uncomfortable within, like I said, and it kept on stirring up. So I prayed about it. And I heard a sermon after sermon after sermons, not ones I was necessarily looking for, but they were at church or I heard them online, that were just pointing me to continue looking into this. So I was praying and I said, Lord, do you want me to leave this job or not? And one night when I was at work, there was a rapid. So that's when something bad happens with the patient and all the health professionals come. And at the end of the rapid, one of the nurses that was there, who I, would see her every once in a while, but she didn't work on my unit. She came up to me afterwards and talking to me, was like, Grace, is everything okay? Because you just don't look the same. You don't look as well. And then she spoke life into me, because she said, this job will always be here. If you need to take a break and come back, you can do that. But also, you're such a great nurse. I know that you can do many things and so much more. It was like that thing of saying, whispering, this is not just something in your mind. This is God speaking to you loudly saying, I see you. I see you. And yes, I want you to make that change. Was it scary? Yes, because it felt like losing what I knew. I was so used to working on that unit. And yes, it was difficult, but it was difficulty that I knew. And I also knew how to work with different people. And there was benefits. Yes, I was a nurse, charge nurse, so I was making not bad money. But it was like I could not ignore that. And I felt like that was a God thing. That wasn't just circumstance. And I kept on praying. And during this time I was praying, I actually ended up having a back injury. And that kind of made me confused, like, Lord, what is this? The pain and all the different circumstances that go with it, unfortunately, would not allow me to be able to still do some of my duties. So I had to do light duty and also kind of go to another area. So what just made it seem more complicated to me is that in the midst of this deciding what the next steps were, I ended up getting a back injury at work. And I was so confused. Lord, what is this? I have this back injury. How can I do my nursing? And yes, I know you can do anything, but Lord, what is this? And I was on light duty, but it just seemed like the pain just persisted and it wasn't the best situation. So I actually ended up taking a leave of absence. Um, so because of medical reasons. And during that time, I wasn't getting paid. And it was a time of, but Lord, am I going to trust you? So before then, God was telling me, Carice, there's different things that you don't trust me fully in. Maybe this other area, this, but not this. And one of them was finances. So for me to take that time off from work and not get paid was a miracle. And God was saying, will you trust me with this, even when you don't have all the finances? And so me stepping out was like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you. During that time, I was fasting and praying and saying, Lord, what is my purpose? And that's actually what birthed. During that time, it birthed this whole new thing with my channel with doing interviews. Because I went to this conference and I felt like God was reminding me, I told you I want you to get people's testimonies. And my cousin was telling me, if God has called you to do this, go boldly and do it here. So I started interviewing people there. And now this is where this came from. And I thought, okay, God, all right, but this can't be it. And during that time, I applied for so many jobs, but the doors were closing. And I was like, God, I don't know. I would prefer to stay in this hospital. I would prefer to stay in the city, but Lord, I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do. But I was still lost. And it was during the last day of my fast that one of my good friends called me up with her sister, and they basically informed me that we got a job offer for you. And I was like, whoa, the last day of my fast.